Right. Good evening, everyone. My name's Jim Gazzard. I'm the Director of Continuing Education at the University of Cambridge Institute of Continuing Education. I just want to say welcome to everybody who's dialed in this evening. What we're really trying to do this evening as part of the Master of Studies Open Week is to describe what the colleges do during these MST courses and the really amazing value and insights and community that they bring. So I'm going to go around our panelists this evening and ask them to introduce themselves briefly, who they are, their role in their college, and an overview, very brief overview of their college. And then we've got some questions that we will ask the panel. But if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A and we will do our very best to pick those up as we go through. So without further ado, Melanie, can we start with you, please?
Of course, thanks, Jim, and a really warm welcome to everybody. So glad you've joined us this evening. I'm Melanie Keane. I'm postgraduate tutor at Homerton College. That means I oversee everything to do with our wonderful postgraduate students, which is a thriving cohort of full and part-time students doing the whole range of degrees. Homerton is a large college in beautiful grounds on the south side of the city, and we have a reputation for being inclusive and diverse and welcoming for students from non-traditional backgrounds. We are the newest college, 21st century college, but we have a history going back over 250 years. That means we're a college that's changed quite a lot, but where I really think you can be part of that change in quite exciting ways. We absolutely pride ourselves on individualised student wellbeing support for all students, undergraduate, postgraduate, full-time, part-time, and helping all of our students get more out of Cambridge alongside their degree. So we have innovative co-curricular programmes such as the Homerton Changemakers programme, which has been very popular with some of our part-time students. We have an incredibly hardworking MCR, including part-time student reps on that student union committee. That's what the word MCR means. And they arrange lots of events and arrange lots of peer support as well for students. I also think Homerton's a place where we have all of this sort of heritage, but we can also have a bit of fun. So the standout events for me of the last few weeks really have been a Black History Month dinner with Naomi Campbell. We had a Doctor Who themed anniversary meal last week with some of the cast and writers from the show. And this week, some of our students, again, including part-time students, visited number 10 Downing Street. So I think those kinds of things really sum up what Homerton is. We're inclusive, diverse, but really trying to not be too serious about it and have that sense of student support and wellbeing at the heart of what we're doing.
Fantastic, Melanie. It sounds like term has got off to a brilliant start. I've seen some of those things on social media and it's fantastic. Susan and Wolfson, and of course the best college. We'll go next.
When you say that, Jim, I think I have to say that you're a fellow of Wolfson, thus you have a bias that you should disclose. So I'm Susan Larson. I'm the senior tutor at Wolfson College, which is a large college about 10 minutes walk from the Sidgwick site, where many of the humanities and social sciences are based, and on a really convenient bike route up to the various science areas. We are, one of the things that's relevant to part-time students is that we have a huge part-time student population. We are really proud of the fact that we have more part-time students than any other college in Cambridge. We have, at last count, well over 300, and they come from all over the world. All colleges in Cambridge can call themselves international and diverse and inclusive. I'm not sure how many can say that they have students from 99 different countries. I guess I suddenly took on a competitive tone there, and I don't want to be competitive. We're all wonderful colleges and really great places to be. But anyway, we have students from over 99 different countries in our college this year, and we've never had fewer than 90. And we welcome students from, at last count, 15 different MST courses. I'm going to talk a lot about what we do for part-time students, just because I think that's so important. Our part-time students have dedicated tutors who specialize in working with part-time students. We offer a really rich program of academic skills development that we offer online on Saturdays, specifically so that our part-time students can tune in to get tips that may be particularly helpful to those who are returning to learning after some time away, whether it has to do with the newest forms of referencing software or time management, or locating the work that the resources that you need for your dissertation. We call that program WolfWorks. We've now expanded it to include the Wolfson Writing Center, which also offers online consultations as well as in-person consultations. Our part-time students play a huge role in the college. They have run for office on our Wolfson College Student Association. They have been on our May Ball Committee. They are central to what we do. Some of them mentor our undergraduates. One of the things that sets Wolfson apart, I suppose, is that we are a so-called mature college. It means that everyone here is over 21. And we admit about 50 undergraduates every year, all over 21. We admit 300 postgraduates full-time and between 100 and 150 part-time students every year. It makes for a really rich, diverse mix in which everyone, we think, is equal. We don't have a high table in our college. Students, staff, fellows, full-time, part-time, undergrad, postgrad. We all sit together at the same long tables in hall, talking to one another about everything from what you were doing in Antarctica on your last research trip to where you're going in Brazil, to the newest developments in genomic medicine. So I think I'll stop there, and I'm happy to answer questions specifically about our college and the support we offer for part-time students in the Q&A.
Thank you, Susan. And again, a reminder to everyone dialing in, please ask questions in the Q&A and we'll pick them up in a minute. Joe, over to you, please.
Right, well, some of this is going to seem slightly familiar because Hughes Hall, firstly, I'm Joe and I'm Deputy Senior Tutor at Hughes Hall. So Hughes Hall is also a mature college. So that means we take postgraduates, but also undergraduates who are over 21. And I guess that's important possibly for part-time master's students because we are set up to support and teach and kind of foster the community for people who are not 18, right? And we kind of prize that, and we think about the way we can run a college for that kind of person. I think some other useful things for you to know will be, we're also spend a lot of time thinking about the kinds of support that students coming both from a kind of different kinds of backgrounds that might have had different kinds of careers, may have ongoing careers, maybe part-time, maybe kind of from areas of society where they that don't necessarily traditionally participate in Cambridge, which means we have a fairly comprehensive program to support students with study skills, academic skills, well-being, and also career development once they're in the college, right? And it's obviously not a competition, but we can just say this because we just crossed the 100 threshold for the number of countries we have students from. So that's, like many colleges, it's extremely like kind of international, vibrant community. Part-time master students, MSTs will be, they're offered tutors, which is a kind of pastoral support and just general advice persons that you can have one-on-one kind of meetings with. Remember the college community, you can stay in accommodation, you can book accommodation, and sort of engage in all the sorts of social activities, societies, sporting or otherwise in the college. So I think I'll just leave it there for
Thanks, Joe. And Martin, please.
Thank you very much. I should declare an interest. I'm a graduate of Wolfson College and enjoyed my years there very, very much. This is a sales pitch. I don't want to turn it into a sales pitch. It doesn't feel right at all. There's some really good places here. So I'm Dr. Marty Parker Dixon. I got my doctorate from Wolfson. And I've got a number of Cambridge associations, which I will reveal because I can actually make some comparisons directly between colleges and college experience because they are different. It's important to, they've all got something going on, and they are all distinct. So I'm a panel tutor for ICE, I teach in philosophy and creativity. I'm a director of studies in music at Sydney Sussex College, which is in town. It's one of the older ones. And I'm a tutor there as well. And I am a deputy admissions tutor for St Edmund's College, which is another mature college on the hill, very similar to Wolfson and Hughes Hall in that respect. And I spend most of my week at Fitzwilliam College, which is also up on the hill. And we will win this competition because we're nearest Madingley Hall. There you go. No one can do it. No one's going to shift their college overnight just to win that one. So in terms of driving, and it's just absolutely ideal. You're there in 5 minutes. It's really easy. Now, at Fitzwilliam, like the other colleges on the hill and the other colleges represented here, we have a special kind of quality in our foundation. We were set up in the 19th century when there was things like a Catholic emancipation and also a sensitivity to widening participation, because that's a very old issue in Britain and in higher education. And Fitzwilliam was one of the early institutions that was set up as a hall of residence, really, which allowed, it would be men back in the 19th century, to come and study and not take on all the debts and financial burden of joining a college. So in our DNA is this idea of acceptance. We'll take you as you are. There's no pretensions at Fitzwilliam at all. They just wouldn't work. We do have a high table, but it's not particularly high, although the chairs are more comfortable than the plebs down in the poor seats. So it's got that's all it's got, really. It's highly inclusive, very international. I'm a tutor there. I deal with undergraduates and postgraduates, and I've got a lot of part-time MSTs, and I must say they are a joy to work with and talk to. Of course, challenges are brought to me, but they are so much more interesting and so much more better handled than many undergraduates, younger undergraduates. At Fitz, we have, like everyone else here, we have a program of well-being, of learning support. We call it Fitz Plus. We have the college is relatively new, brick-built quads in an old-fashioned shape, but it's built around a building called the Grove, where Darwin's niece, I believe, resided for a while. And we use the Grove a lot for our functions, and it's very plush and very comfortable and a very nice place to be. And it has French doors that open out onto the garden. And my colleague, Susie, who you'll hear a lot from should you start applying to Fitzwilliam, is really, really good at getting the social schedule moving along and programmed and making things happen. And it's very good fun, and you'll eat a lot of cheese. Yeah, that'll do for me. Fitzwilliam is very similar to the other colleges in all these respects, but do come and have a look around as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Yeah, cheese and certainly gardens as well, I think absolutely crucial. We'll revisit those themes as well. Jane and Lucy Cow, over to you.
Thanks, Jim. I'm loving this kind of slight competitiveness. I hope that people are understanding that there are differences between the colleges. There's lots of similarities, and you hear, as Martin said, many of the same things, but also the subtle differences. And I think that's what makes Cambridge such an interesting place to study. Lucy Cav has gone from being the second smallest college over a period of the last 5 years to being the now fourth largest. And we are one of the younger colleges, originally set up to be a college for mature women. And in that case, students that might not ordinarily have thought of coming to Cambridge, that was our reason for being originally. In 2021, we started taking in standard age students as well, but we remain predominantly a postgraduate college, 10% of whom are in fact part-time students. So it's very much a case that it's a college. Whilst we have 18-year-olds, it's still very much a place for mature students to feel very comfy. We have, like the others, we've got a wide range of different master's courses, ever expanding, ever more interesting, I think. We have dedicated tutors, like others, for part-time students. I, as senior tutor, take a particular interest in graduate students, postgraduate students, and I'm on various committees to that effect within the university. We are one of the smallest sites, but we have a very large central new building that was built 2 years ago now, and is the focus for student entertainment, student performance. It's a cafe cum bar, and it's the only passive house student building in the whole city. So it heats and warms and cools itself. It's a very beautiful place to visit. We still have a large library, although I suspect that nowadays we have slightly less library space per student than we used to have because of the number of students. But it's a lovely site. And I think one of the things that people tend to say about Lucy is it feels like a home. And that's what we also aspire to. And like the other colleges, we don't have a hierarchy. So students, fellows, everybody sit together. And I think that's a common theme you've heard from these colleges, which do tend to specialize in mature students. That's very much a theme. I think I'm going to leave it there, Jim, because I can't really add anything to what everybody else has already said, but there's an awful lot of expertise out there in looking after mature and part-time students.
I just want to say thank you to all of you for those intros, because I was thinking about, home, warmth, an inclusive approach, meeting students where they're at, whether you last studied 2 years ago or 20 years ago. I think it's very interesting, the things you've all reflected on, and maybe we can build on that a bit more. But I just wondered if I could challenge you, and perhaps one or two of you might want to pick this up. A collegiate university, can you just explain a bit more about the mechanics? What is a collegiate university? What is the role of a college within all of that? And you've covered some of it, but I think when we speak to MST students, as you all do at interviews, etc., it's just trying to understand how we make the most from the college. So would anyone like to just give us the 101 on what a collegiate university is and where you think your college fits into that?
I can do that in simple terms. Sorry.
Go ahead, Jane. Jane, then Susan.
Apologies, Susan. I'm failing to see my hand on this screen. If I had to describe, if you think in a more normal university, if you like, or a regular university, of things like halls of residence, and in very simple terms, we provide that accommodation and home and place of resource to students. We support both the pastoral and the academic side of things. So you heard a number of different of my colleagues talking about academic programs, support programs. We do that. So we supply the additional skills or that you might wish to acquire. Obviously, for part-time students, most of the time you're not living with us, but there is accommodation if people do come. For us, it's usually during the summer holidays if people are around then, and we'll lay on dinners and meals. So it's a place to come to and get that additional support when you're getting your lectures and your regular academic input from, in this case, your institution. I hope that kind of summarizes it, but there's nothing that a part-time student a full-time student gets that, in fact, a part-time student doesn't have access to. I think that's the most crucial thing to remember. You have all the same access to welfare and well-being and academic support that anyone else has.
Absolutely. And Susan, did you want to add anything?
No, just I think to sort of underscore that what we always say to our students when they matriculate, the part-timers, is that they're a part-time student, but that they're a full-time member of the college. And I think that for many of our students, because we tend to admit them in cohorts, it becomes a kind of home base. So it's when people come in for their residentials, it is their anchor in Cambridge, the place where they gather at dinner and learn, drink in the bar, have breakfast in the morning, hammer things out. That it's a very intense period of time for most of the MST courses when they come in, and the college it's the base for their small community of the people on their course, but it's also where they meet the larger community. And the support that colleges offer, I would say that the kind of support that we offer, it's about the interface between sort of the personal, the social, the extracurricular, and the institutions for teaching and assessment. So if something does, for example, go wrong, the college tutor, which in this context doesn't mean the person who's teaching them, but a person who has pastoral care responsibility for them, is a kind of advocate, can support them, can answer questions. The college is the place where you go when you don't know who's going to help you answer your question or where to turn. That's what the college does. So
In that hub and that tailoring, Susan, you're quite right. Martin, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I'm very old-fashioned around what a college is. They're based in, I still think they're Benedictine monasteries. I think they're closed communities. Fitzwilliam is quite hard to get into. You could probably climb over the railings at some point, but it is a protected space, and that's rather important for a feeling of really intensifying a feeling of belonging and membership, and it will get under your skin. If you join a college, you go, I am really part of something, and part of something which is terribly old and rather special, I think. And I work very hard to maintain the idea that membership and matriculation in a college is a very special moment. I'm also a praelector, so I look after matriculation and graduation. I take those moments very, very seriously. And as an MST, you will matriculate and graduate in very grand ways. Now, when I sat down at dinner a few weeks ago with some Masters of Studies, it was the most spectacular networking opportunity. So say undergrad teenagers and undergraduates call a community, it's network. It really is, and all colleges facilitate social interaction very, very well. It's lubricated with wine and port and guinea fowl and things like that occasionally, but it is a really effective way of getting to know people. And you could work together, you could do business together, and you might know each other for the rest of your life as well, because you're all members of the same place. So I think it's a very big deal and very special.
Completely agree. And networks both in the sense, Martin, of professional and friendships as well, I would say. Melanie.
Yeah, just quickly, and following on from that, I think another thing that's so special about the college is it brings together people sort of horizontally, if we cross it that way, from lots of different kinds of subjects, doing things from across the whole university. And I know at colleges we really try and create opportunities to have that kind of conversation that Martin was just so eloquently describing, where you can meet those people and have those connections. Another thing I think the college does is brings together people from a sort of vertical slice. So we have people from the emeritus professor all the way down to perhaps some of the undergraduates even, or other people at different stages throughout postgraduate study who also might use the college as a space to come together. So I think it's another kind of group, a community, a space that you belong to that sits alongside the specialist cohort that you would have on your course, that really provides other ways of getting to know people and finding out the sort of the microcosm of the university, people in all of those different areas and at all of those different levels of study.
So a real community of learning, intergenerational, interdisciplinary as well. Joe.
This is not to disagree with anything that's been said, in fact, to amplify it, but it's just to make the point that I think particularly at postgraduate level, it is also what you want it to be, right? So I don't want any of this to sound totally overwhelming, right? So that we're not going to force you to come to these things. We're kind of giving you resources that you can engage in it as you wish, right? So you can come to the dinners, you can be part of the community, or frankly, you can come in and use the library and never talk to anyone if that's what you want, right? So this is really not kind of compulsory sociality. This is the offer of sociality. And I think that's important because obviously all postgraduates, but particularly, I guess, part-time postgraduates may just choose to engage in particular ways based on your terms. So to be very clear, we're offering you choices and opportunities. We're not kind of dictating how you would live as a student.
And that optionality is important, and it's not just for extroverts; it's for introverts. As you're saying, Joe, you can engage with college in different ways. I'm going to do a Cambridge English dictionary test with you all. Yeah, I think you've all mentioned matriculate, membership, pastoral. Can I actually do some assessment with you now? Would anyone actually like to just define these terms, because I don't think they're used particularly, in broader parlance. So. I don't know. Melanie, would you like to comment on some definitions, and others might want to jump in with the test?
Okay. Well, I think the matricular was the roll of students, right? So the register of names of people who were studying at the university, because a few hundred years ago, someone thought it'd be a really good idea to know who was here and who was getting degrees. So like everything in Cambridge, we've come up with a very long name for what is quite a simple thing, but something that we'd like to mark in a very special way. So at Homerton, we mark matriculation, which is the joining of the university. So officially, now it's online, but signing that list of students to be part of this institution. And at Homerton, we have a very special dinner, and we really try and make the most of all of our new students and celebrate them, welcoming them into that community and into our college. So yeah, I know some other colleges have slightly different rituals and things they do though.
And again, just I know you've all described it in different ways, but just this word pastoral, I think sometimes is a bit confused. I don't know, Martin, if you wanted to pick that up.
Yes, there's a sort of a split which is artificial between academic things and pastoral things. So pastoral is things which are emotional, medical issues that maybe get in the way of academic work, but they're considered to be separate. I rarely see a very clear distinction between the two things, because if you're suffering in some aspect of your life, it's very likely to have an impact on your capacity to study and produce work in a timely manner. But the we might be a little bit, at least we've got compliments in comparison to Oxford, in that in Oxford your tutor looks after all of you all at once, but in Cambridge those functions are separate. And really, pastorally, it means absolutely anything. It is a blank check. Oh, is this the kind of thing I can talk to a tutor about? Yes, I'll just say yes right away, and we'll sort out where it's going to go some other time. But you can ask your tutor anything, and then they'll move it along. If they can't handle it, they'll move it along to someone that can, and it's just very, very useful. It's a fascinating responsibility. It's very demanding, but very, very interesting. And I hope it's of real value to someone at a certain point in their life, to have someone to talk to about almost anything. Who wouldn't want that?
That confidentiality, that mentoring, the facilitation,
It's
linking. Susan,
it's all completely confidential, never goes anywhere. Confessor's seal, no problem at all.
Thank you, Martin.
I just wanted to say, I came here from the US in 2009, and I thought that the term pastoral was really funny, because for me it suggested that the students were sheep in a pasture, and that the pastoral sort of individual was herding them, and that is not what it is. It is exactly as Martin said. It could be anything, and I think more and more colleges are moving towards thinking of the pastoral function as being about students' welfare, which we think of as sometimes things that could go wrong, and well-being. The pastoral function of the college is this incredible luxury that the collegiate university offers, which is extra care for how you are as a student, rather than just being focused on assessments and marks and getting the degree. There is this whole other role, the tutor, and the college is set up to try to, in some ways, to look after you, but without infantilizing, right? Really, without turning students into sheep or children. But we want you to get, we want you to be your best selves while you are here, and to help you to become the best at what you want to be as you leave. And that ideally, perhaps not always, ideally is what tutors are here to facilitate, and what the collegiate system is kind of ideally set up to do. So that's just a footnote, my North American footnote to the Cambridge pastoral tradition.
It's helpful, and I think we've got a number of international students on the call this evening, and that's why I really wanted to get into the language of this, because I think we normalize these words in Cambridge, and sometimes they're quite strange. You've all alluded to this in different ways, but could we talk a bit more specifically about how you and your colleagues support part-time postgraduate students? What kinds of themes? How does this happen? Do you have to be in college, or can we use newfangled things like telephones and even Zoom calls? How do you manage all of this, and how do you engage with those part-time postgraduate students? Joe, I don't know if you wanted to kick us off.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think, I'm sorry to talk about tutors again, but I mean, I think it emphasizes the role of a tutor in that the student's starting point for really, and it's not just when things go wrong, as people have said, but just for questions that they have, is often the tutor, right? And while all, MSc students are welcome to come into the college and meet tutors face to face, obviously, given the constraints and everything else, where everyone meets people online all the time now, as I'm sure we all do. And really the tutor then would be directing the student either, in communication with ICE and Madingley Hall about kind of academic worries or support, but also just if the student was asking questions about how to live either in the college or in Cambridge, they maybe give that kind of, and I mean, not necessarily live literally, but how to kind of interact with the place. They give that kind of help. I mean, specific things to Hughes Hall. I mean, if the student brought up, I don't know, questions of like, I'm struggling to write academic essays, I'm coming back in from coming out of education, they'd then be referred to our kind of academic skills kind of pathways. They wanted some more kind of careers advice, then they'd be passed through predictably to the academic careers kind of training. And that also can involve both live events, group events, online events, and also one-on-one consultations. So I guess that's the example of the kind of support, but it will often start with a conversation with the tutor, which will be online or in person, and then the tutor will direct the student through all the kinds of support that the college offers.
Thank you, Joe. Jane, did you want to add anything to that, or is that comprehensive?
I think I think the tutor does provide that sort of immediate contact with the college. I think also nowadays, sort of in our post-COVID world, we've also got so many online resources. So most of the colleges will have, direct access to recorded training or recorded sessions in different kinds of academic support. It's very easy to book, like our own website. The students can book directly with the welfare support, whatever it might be they might want access to. And I'm sure the others are just the same in that way. So a lot of things actually have become, I think, easier and more accessible for students who are studying from further away.
I think that's definitely the case. And again, if I can just check on some language here, you're all mentioning different actors, tutors, senior tutors, there are porters lodgers, there are heads of houses, there are revision therapy dogs. Would someone like just to talk us through who part-time postgraduate students, which of these actors do they meet? How does that work? I don't know, Melanie, if you just wanted to start.
Sure. Well, I think so each of the students would have a tutor, as you've mentioned. That's a really important person. And again, at Homerton, like other colleges, we've got people who are dedicated and work with the part-time students in particular, so they get to know a bit about the particular pressures for that course. But I think there's a whole load of other people who are part of the apparatus of the college, they're a really important part of the community alongside the students and the fellows. And so the porters are people who are usually at the front of the college, the welcoming face, very friendly usually, and often they're the first people actually in person that the students might meet when coming into the college, and maybe might check into accommodation there or something. I know, for example, our library team as well are really keen to get involved with the MST students, and quite often where we can, try and arrange some opportunity for a library induction or similar. Similarly, our catering team, I know, look after our postgraduate part-time students very well when they're around for residentials. I know they have lots of good conversations over breakfast, for example, with our part-time penology students. And everybody from our housekeeping team who's looking after students in the accommodation, making up the beds and things in the room. So I think the college has all of these different moving parts, and it's really lovely actually to see the different parts of the college welcoming part-time students onto residentials, or seeing them as part of our students. I'm not quite sure if that's what you wanted me to talk about.
No, I think it's helpful. I don't know, Susan, if you want to pick up fellowship. What's that all about?
Every college has fellows ranging in. We have about over 100 in ours. I think Fitzwilliam, where I used to be, had about 55 to 60. Fellows are academics, employed for the most part in the university. Occasionally there are fellows who are particularly distinguished in other fields, and they might not have a Cambridge connection, but for the most part, the fellowship is made of Cambridge academics who govern the college. All colleges have what's called a governing body, and the fellows are have the ultimate decision making about finances and in some cases employment. Tomorrow, my college, our Wolfson, will be choosing its new president, and there will be 4 hours of speeches and deliberations, and at the end, as many of those 100 people as academics as can manage it will vote, and that's how the decisions are made. So it can be a bit unwieldy, but what it means for, but also egalitarian. What it means for part-time students is that the fellowship is this additional resource of intellectual engagement and stimulation, another network that you access. And you will be, when we talk about sitting down to lunch with fellows, that means you may be sitting next to, you could be sitting next to the vice chancellor, because the vice chancellor is a fellow of a college. Used to be, the former vice chancellor was a fellow of our college. You'd be sitting next to distinguished professors, to researchers from all across the university in all different fields. And I guess one thing that we all forgot to mention, although it's because it's so central to what we do, is that the fellowship and colleges expand your access to ideas and information, because fellows, you're not only talking to people in your subject, you're talking to people that do everything that it is possible to do in the university, because you may not have a fellow in every single subject, but they will be bringing someone to lunch, and then you'll get to talk to that person over lunch, or they'll be bringing them in. So the fellowship is not I don't want to call it a melting pot, but it's an intellectual kaleidoscope of ideas that you can that you're exposed to through these individuals who are all fascinating, as you are, as our part-time students are, because they're also enrich that conversation. That's perhaps not the answer you were looking for, but that's the one I will give. So
No, I think that was an excellent answer. And to me, having only been in Cambridge 8 years, that's the secret recipe of Cambridge. It's that interdisciplinarity, that networking, those links. Jane, can you talk a bit about, and others have already, but how much do MST students get involved with college life, bearing in mind some are medics, some are architects, some are creative writers, some are police officers, some are returning to study, parents, professionals, carers. Are they there every day? How does it work?
It really varies. Because obviously it's more difficult for those students that are living abroad or doing going back to living abroad in between placements. When they're here on placement, absolutely, we encourage them to come to college, to use college facilities, to really enjoy that part of it. I'm sure the other colleges do too, but we always put on special dinners if we've got a good cohort of students. Particular MST will have a dinner for them so that they get that experience, even if their placement falls outside of what we like to call the normal term or the regular term. In addition, I think you've been touching on the cross-disciplinary nature of Cambridge. I mean, we will always advertise events that are on. You know that we run a very prestigious fiction prize. In fact, our creative writers have been recipients of some of those prizes because they will, take part in that competition. But that event and that week will bring in, for instance, the creative writers, and at other times the other courses are very much, if they are UK based, will turn up for events that are on in college or in the wider university. So it's when they're here, definite engagement. But then I think somebody else mentioned there's quite a lot of virtual events. We still have virtual talks at least once a fortnight, and that gives that opportunity to engage in that way too. Trying to think of other ways, Jim, but it's really make of it what you can. I think somebody else said that your experience at Cambridge is what you want to make of it.
I think that real range of students, I speak to some who don't even elect to attend the matriculation dinner, all the way through to those that are rowing in the first eight, who are there and engaged intellectually, sports, pastorally. You've all mentioned dining and lots of dinners. So we see people in Cambridge in gowns going to dinners. This is, is it old-fashioned? What's the value in all of this? Martin, I don't know if you would like to comment on why is food so important?
It's very strange, isn't it? So I mentioned this word praelector earlier. I think I should explain that. So every college has a praelector, and they take care of ceremony. They basically organise and present and speak a lot of Latin. The other thing I'm asked as a praelector is, what gown do I wear? And so, like a lot of things in Britain, we tend to saturate our some aspects of our environment with symbols, and gowns are very symbolic of hierarchy, and also what university you're from, and things like that. Now, it's when I deal with these things, students can sound a bit worried, but actually it's just extremely good fun and very interesting, and looking at all the little tassels and marks on it. It's just a bit of heraldry that's hung over from a very long time ago, when people took these things super seriously. We don't anymore, and you can basically wear anything you like and no one would even notice, let alone care. But maybe on a graduation day we take things a little bit more seriously. But Cambridge is a place where there are very deeply entrenched rituals, but I think they're there to reinforce community ultimately, to that sense of what you're doing, and also what you're doing has tremendous value. I work in the arts, and the arts are kind of like, they can be really vulnerable sometimes, and I really want to value that. If you're close reading a poem, or as I do, like looking at a romantic song for a couple of hours, it's a very, very special thing. And I think the paraphernalia and the wonderful environment and the panelled rooms and all the rest of it, it kind of supports you morally, psychologically, spiritually, to realise that what you're doing has really deep roots. It has been valued for centuries, and we are continuing that at great cost in the face of public opinion and governments and everything else. But we are still doing it. We're still creative writers, and we're still studying scientific theories and AI and all the rest, because we really want to and we really value it. So in a way, you put a gown on, you're saying, I value myself, I value my colleagues, I value this institution, and we're going to uphold something here. And it also keeps you very warm, because a lot of Cambridge, it's absolutely freezing around here at the moment, and gowns were normally worn to keep you warm in a library. So you've got to remember that they are super functional as well, and when it's pouring with rain, a gown is a great thing. Sorry to end on such a prosaic note.
It is very utilitarian, I would say, and I think that there's something about learning to disagree respectfully, and to do that in an environment, perhaps with dinner or coffee or wine or whatever. And I think talking based on evidence rather than kind of shrieking echo chambers, and I think there's something incredibly powerful about all of that. Can you just tell me about what roles do college play in really important things like graduation? Do you graduate through your college? How does that work? There have been questions too about accommodation. I know colleagues have spoken about that, but if anyone would like to add anything. So let's talk about graduation first. Melanie.
Sure. Well, just this last Saturday, we had a wonderful graduation day at Homerton with quite a few of our part-time students receiving degrees. So yes, you will graduate via your college when someone in the role of Prior-Lector, as Martin has just talked about, will present you for your degree in the Senate House in the university. And that will usually be with quite a lot of other students doing different kinds of degrees. Sometimes some of the MSTs try and coordinate things, so there'd be quite a group from a particular course, particularly if there's one college where all or most of the students are members of that college. But each college, again, has its slightly own different pattern of how it does things. At Homerton, we sort of have the first half of the day at the college where we have a rehearsal, we make sure everyone's dressed properly, make sure everyone's relaxed and knows what they're doing. We have a photo, a prize giving, and we have a lovely special lunch with speeches and those kinds of things. Then at Homerton, we go up and we meet at King's College, who very kindly lend us a bit of their ground to walk down then King's Parade down to the Senate House. So it's not something you have to do. Again, it's one of these things which is an option for you. You can receive your degree in absence if the whole rigmarole and ritual just seems like something that's not quite for you. But I'd say on our side at the college, it's a wonderful day of celebration, really brings together lots of different people. It allows us to thank friends, family, supporters of students as well. So it's a really lovely bookend to that matriculation I was talking about, where we really welcome people. We can then really celebrate them and their achievements.
Thank you. The graduation days are amazing to listen to brilliant speakers, and as you say, that community of learning, celebrating together publicly. All of this sounds expensive. So do colleges add another tier of expense into this? And we still have that question around accommodation as well. Would anyone like to pick up that thorny issue? Susan, over to you.
So colleges, there is all MST courses charge a fee, and there is a relatively small proportion of that fee which is allocated to the colleges, and no matter how much the MST course costs, the college gets the same amount. So you may be paying more money for your course because it's more expensive to teach it, but the same small amount, which is determined by the central university every year, will go to the college. And that's why one of the reasons, let's be frank, why colleges really try to give value for fees. That's why we want you to have a positive experience and a festive graduation and a special matriculation, and to take advantage of all of the different kinds of support that we offer. With respect to accommodation, I am pretty sure that no colleges allow part-time students to live full-time in their accommodation. There may have been exceptions in the past, but accommodation is under such incredible pressure in Cambridge that it's the one area in which part-time students are not the same as full-time students, and that they can't apply to live there full-time. But some courses, a number of them that come to our college, and probably the same is true of others, the applied police management, building history, interdisciplinary design for the built environment, real estate, finance, something else I can't remember, have made arrangements with this college, and other courses will have made arrangements with other colleges to offer accommodation to the students on their course while they are here for their residential modules. So that we, as a college, say, yes, we will hold this number of rooms for the students that you anticipate that will be in coming at specific times of the year, so you don't have to book in advance. And those rooms are made available at student rates, while colleges will often book out rooms at higher rates for conferences in order to supplement their budgets. MST students always pay, at least in our college, they always pay only the student rate. Students whose courses have not made that kind of general deal with the college to book accommodation, I think in most colleges are always able, certainly in ours, to book accommodation if it's available during their course, which it may well be, and at other times as well. I mean, one of the ways in which we encourage our part-time students to interact with the college is to come and spend a night if we have accommodation that's available, our part-time students can book that, can book a room or for a weekend and come in and study, or just have a getaway. You can't have kids under 18, but you can bring your partner and book one of our double guest rooms at the student rate, which we encourage everyone to do. And sometimes part-time students will arrange for little study weekends and come in together, arrange to get together and spend a weekend in college working together on their work. So it's possible that every college, though, has slightly different arrangements. We're fortunate in that we have a conference center with 26 guest rooms, and we make those available to our part-time students. We don't book them out to conferences, and then if there are any left over, we offer them to the part-time students. We give those rooms, we prioritize the use of those rooms to support our part-time students. I don't know, Jim, did I cover it fairly comprehensively? Colleagues may want to indicate how they do this differently, because I know everybody has a different situation.
I saw colleagues nodding along, so there might be some other feedback we can provide to the applicants who've dialed in. But I think that from my experience, the colleges are superb in terms of, if they have space, they'll make it available at affordable rates to part-time students. I'm being advised by my colleagues that we're already over time. It's gone very quickly. But what I hope we've been able to do is to give everyone a sense of the kind of arc that colleges are involved in with MSTs. And I think really one of the unique differentiators of a Cambridge part-time postgraduate experience, the networks, the intellectual community that colleges provide. All of the colleges here today are linked to one or more of our MSTs. On our website, you will see very clearly on each course which colleges they are affiliated with. So you will have some choices in most cases. And I would implore you to look at the colleges, go onto their websites, challenge them about the kinds of things that you want as a learner, and they will really add to your experience, and they really do make a difference. So I wanted to say thank you to all of my colleagues on the panel this evening. I think you've represented your colleges excellently, and the student experience that you provide. And hopefully those students watching tonight or on the recording will have got a really good sense of what the college experience is. So thank you, everybody. Have a good evening, and hopefully we might see you on an MST course next autumn, working through the Institute of Continuing Education and alongside our partner colleges. Thank you very much indeed. Good